Welcome to the HyperFast Agent Growth Show. Get real strategies, real results, and real estate done differently. Lead generation, team building, AI, and more from billion-dollar agents, best-selling authors, international speakers, and real estate coaches. Kerry Shull and Dan Lesniak. Let's dive in!
All right, welcome to this episode of the HyperFast Agent Growth Show. We are back today with our panel. It's been a few weeks since we've had one of these panel episodes, so a lot to catch up on. I've been on the RV trip to the other side of the country and back, and we made it. So 2 months on the road. So back and ready to hammer out some podcasts and hopefully provide some values to all of our listeners. Today we've got James Buckley and Karl Svendsen joining us today. Welcome, guys. We've got a great lineup today, so I'll give you the overview. All right, our first topic we're going to cover is what would you do if you lost every lead you had today? Your CRM disappeared. How would you get your next 10 deals? Then we're going to talk about AI, of course, and what real estate agents will actually do in 2027. And then, of course, interest rates, right? Our next topic of that is going to be interest rates and why you need to stop waiting for interest rates to save your business. And then finally, is this actually one of the best markets ever to gain market share? So let's start with our first topic here. If you lost every lead tomorrow, how would you close your next 10 deals? So let's say all your leads disappear, your pipeline disappears, your CRM gets, bought by Zillow and they take it away from you. All you've got your phone, your social media accounts, and $1,000. How would you get your next 10 deals? We'll kick it over to you, James.
Yeah, the next 10 deals, and only $1,000 in my pocket and no CRM. Assuming that I can't, find that CRM data somehow. I do open houses for sure, and I would get RedX Vortex or something similar and Circle Prospect, and connect with all the buyers that are coming in, connect with all the neighbors, door knock, and then, assuming I still have my cell phone, I'd go through my cell phone contacts and I would start calling people that I know and inviting them to coffee, seeing how they're doing, and building the CRM back up that way.
So open houses, calling your sphere, door knocking, and using a platform like RedX to make phone calls. What about you, Karl?
I've always been a phone call guy. I would reach out to every single person that I know. And for people that are listening, if you're a newer agent, I know a lot of newer agents tend to think, I don't know anybody that wants to buy or sell. I don't have a big sphere of influence. You have people that love you and care about you. You have friends and family, people that you went to school with, people that you've worked with at previous jobs. You got to really not overthink it, and not be afraid to reach out to people that you haven't talked to in a significant amount of time, even if it's been years. And one thing that I really like, that I'm pretty sure I got this from
Let me
James.
stop you there, because you mentioned something. Reach out to them even if you haven't talked to them for years. How do you do that? Because I know a lot of agents, they're going to throw up the excuse, well, I'm going to feel awkward if I haven't talked to this person, or nervous, and how do I turn that into a deal? So what does that initial reach out look like when you're reaching out to someone that you haven't talked to in a couple of years?
Easy excuses. If they're active on social media, it's like, hey, I saw your post and I was thinking about you. I realized that I haven't talked to you in a long time. I was thinking about you as soon as I saw the post, or, find a reason to compliment or congratulate, right? And anything that, if they're not on social, then, if you had any memories with that person, my go-to is always, hey, I was thinking about you. Or do you remember that one time? And then talk about that one memory that you have with them. James told me a while back, the key to getting them to ask you and get the conversation going about real estate is to ask them how work is going. And then most of the time, people are just going to reciprocate and say, oh, well, how's work going for you? And then that just gives you the opportunity to tell them what you're doing. And then that's where real estate can naturally come up in a conversation instead of it being awkward or forced and unnatural.
Yeah, so you're going back to that basic acronym. We've all heard it, FORD, right? Family, occupation, recreation, dreams. Ask them questions, and then eventually it'll come back to you, and you can work it in. The one thing I guess I'll caution on some of these calls, or when people are calling their database, I think people have the tendency to like talk too much, right? And drag it out. And you have to remember when you're calling them, you're disruptive, right? Like they were doing something else, you call them, and I think a lot of people are just uncomfortable to like eventually ask for the referral, so they just keep talking longer, and then the person's trying to get off the phone, and they either rush to ask or they don't do it at all. And now you've trained that person. You basically trained them that like, hey, when Karl's calling me, he's gonna like talk to me for 20 minutes, and so the next time he calls, I'm less likely, even if it's subconsciously, I'm less likely to pick it up. So I think you got to like respect their time as well, and try to do what Karl said, right? Like ask about their family or their job. You'll probably not make it through all four of those things on the FORD, right? Like maybe pick one or two, and get to the referral part. I've even heard some scripts where people ask for it up front. They're just direct up front, like, hey Karl, it's been a while since we chatted. I saw your post. It looks like you guys had an awesome family vacation, last week or whatever. So that made me think of you. I definitely want to catch up with you. Before I do that, this is also a business call for me, right? And then ask for a referral, and then that's one strategy people do to like just help get that up front, and then you probably don't feel pressured to like draw the conversation out so long to like look for your perfect opening, to talk about your business. So, just make sure you're not making those conversations too long, or you could be training them to not pick up the phone anymore. What else though, Karl? 'Cause I kind of jumped in there to make that point. So what else would you do?
Yeah, I would also try to create relationships with other people that are going to be in front of potential people that want or need to transact, right? So call it a divorce attorney, a estate planner, a estate liquidator. I know James is doing that stuff. Even like going, thinking about any like people that that are in other types of sales, like car sales. Some of the best referral partners that I've had over the years, other than real estate agents, have been car salesmen. It's tough to sell a salesman, right? But if you can get them, and give them good service, they're going to refer you very strongly because they're going to be interacting with a lot of people that are also going to want to buy a house. So, I would just, why chase after individual leads if you can get good referral sources that are going to produce multiple leads for you? But I guess it depends on. Was the question like if you had to close 10 deals right away, or how am I getting just
where the next 10 deals are? We didn't give a timeline.
Okay. Yeah, if there's no timeline on it, then I'm going after like people that are going to be referral sources for multiple potential buyers and sellers. I think it's just a more effective use of your time, and how you figure out who you want to target. I tell my loan officers this all the time. You got to think about who your perfect client is. Who do you want and like to work with? And then think, okay, now that you've figured out that person, who does that person interact with regularly, right? What is a common professional that is going to interact with that potential buyer, or what are other needs for that potential buyer or seller? And then that's where you need to create the relationship to be able to get a referral source to get more of those types of clients.
Yeah, so referral sources that will give you multiple referrals. Love that. You guys covered a lot of things that I would have said. I'm definitely going to do Red X and really focus on the expireds. And then, I did a podcast the other day with an agent who built a good business on expireds without calling though. She would actually drop off packets, so door knock and drop off like packets like, hey, here's like, I don't know, 25 ways to sell your home when it didn't sell the first time, and just really being of service. And she would do that with FSBOs as well. So, you can definitely add FSBOs, right, to that category of people to reach out to. And, if you don't want to do it on the phone, well, then you're going to have to, use that $1,000 to buy a couple good pairs of shoes, right? And do some door knocking, try to provide value. I agree with the referral sources and your database, like you and James both said. The one thing I'd add, because we did say you have your social media accounts, right? Make a post at least once a day on Instagram and Facebook. You don't have to spend your life on it, right? And I certainly don't think that that should be your number one focus, right? You need to be picking up the phone and doing the phone calls like both of you said. But one post a day, and you can even like map out like, okay, Monday I'm going to post about something about that buyers need to do. Tuesday will be move up buyer day. Wednesday, I'll post about my open houses. Thursday, I'll post like a deal of the week, right? Friday, I'll post some industry news, and then just be consistent with it. And, you don't have to spend more than like 10 to 15 minutes a day on it. Right. So it's not replacing the phone calling. And I think a lot of agents, make it the number one priority, spend tons of time, quote unquote, on social media, but they're really doom scrolling. Yeah, right. And they use that as the excuse to not do the real work, which is picking up the phone. But, I'm not saying not to do the social media, just like be strategic about it. Right. And it's like you got to get in and out, right? Like get on there, post your theme of the day and get out. And it's a long game too, right? It's gonna take a long time. And then the other thing I'll add is I'm gonna start building build up a database again, right? So as you're making these phone calls, as you're calling the expired, your database, referral sources, social media, right? Collect emails, come up with a weekly newsletter. I know, James, you do a great weekly newsletter, and be consistent. Send that email like, the same time every week if you can. Anything else, guys, or you think that will?
This is more of a longer term sphere of influence play, but I've started and really like handwritten note cards as the industry is turning everything digital, AI, and that's like the zig. If you zag and do something that's you could do in the 1850s, that's going to stand out. And so I've started doing that.
1850s Pony Express. Yeah. I love that too. Zig, if they're zagging, handwritten note cards definitely will make you stand out, and you can do it with the database. You can do it with expireds. Because the expireds is interesting, right? Because like obviously on Red X, you can call 100 of them in an hour. If you get when you get live answers, you may be the first person that they talk to, but you also might be the 20th, right? You show up at their door, you leave them a handwritten note card, you might be one of one on that type of contact, right? So that is memorable and will stand out. So I love that. All right, let's move on to our next topic here. AI agents are coming, and when I say agents, I don't mean real estate agents. I mean agents that are that are working for you, like an AI system. Some people call it agents, some people call it agentics, but an AI system is working for you. I think when AI first came on the scene for real estate agents, most people were using it to help with content, right? They were using it to help with the editing process, captions, scheduling, posting. It's certainly moving beyond that, right? It's building systems now that can actually perform work for you, can monitor your emails, can write contracts, can take care of a lot of admin, can even respond to leads, or even in some cases do outbound calls, have conversations. We've seen Zillow, right? Zillow has built out conversational AI tools that work with buyers. So it's doing more and more, right? So let's fast forward a year from now, 2027. What will the real estate agent's job actually be, and what will AI systems do for the agent? And is it going to be possible for a one-person show to replicate what a team of 5 to 10 agents and admin, used to be able to do, right? Where do you think it's heading, James?
Yeah, so the smartest people that I know and the ideas that resonate the most with me, Tim and Julie Harris. I like their idea that basically trust. You can't trust an AI agent. There's no like relationship. There's no stakes, and I think that that's true. AI is gonna disintermediate and make things happen faster and facilitate, but at the end of the day, they need to have a conversation with a human, and because they can trust a human because it's the most similar to what they are. And then stakes, someone to either succeed or screw it up, and to be held accountable for it. And if someone loses $1 million or $100,000 or whatever because some AI chatbot where there's a huge disclaimer helps them in a bad way, you can't be angry at that chatbot, that AI chatbot or agent, but you can hold a real estate agent accountable. So someone that you can trust and where there are real stakes and you can actually build a relationship with. And there's also it's going to be more enjoyable dealing with a human because you have that human interaction. We're built that way. So yes, you can build a business that in the past took 5 agents, and you can do it with fewer. And frankly, I can't remember who it was, but they audited at the suggestion of someone else how many phone calls their team was making like per day, and it was like 1.27 calls per day, and they were devastated as a team leader. And with AI, it's getting really good at making those calls, and those calls aren't about building trust. Those calls are about discovery and setting an appointment.
Yeah, so I think that stat was it was a team leader we both know in our market, and he had a conversation with John Cheplack, and the audit was audit your calls, and figure out the average number of 2-minute conversations your agents were having per day. And if it's less than 5, you've got a problem. Yeah, and I think it was like 1.7 or something. It was less than 2. So, and the reason for that metric, right, is if it's less than 2 minutes, that means you got shut down on the first objective and you never got to that person's potential timing and motivation. All right. So if you get beyond that, you have enough data, you have enough information about why and when they might need to buy and sell. If you're under 2 minutes, you basically got one objection or maybe 2, and got off the phone. So it's those 2-minute conversations, and if AI can help do that and get you more appointments, then obviously like it's going to be able to replace multiple human beings. Karl, what are your thoughts on this question of what AI will be doing for real estate agents in 2027, and what the most valuable skills will be for agents to have, as AI continues to do more and more?
Well, when you first brought up the topic, I think you asked what's an agent's job going to be a year from now in 2027, and the job's not changing. The core function is to be a relationship builder, right? And build trust with folks and be a trusted resource to be able to provide them the real information and coach them and guide them down the right path. Yeah, I was in a mastermind yesterday here with some of the top producing loan officers in the country, and we had a similar conversation about, what's AI going to do to the business in the next 3 to 5 years. And the younger generation came up, talking about Gen Z and I guess soon Gen Alpha, how their behavior is with utilizing AI. And when we've been working with Gen Z clients, like the overall consensus of the group was that essentially, like they use the tools and they get all the questions, but they still don't understand the concepts, right? So same thing as a real estate professional, you have to be able to really deliver big value on helping them understand the concepts. And for you guys as an agent, it's like really, I think it's based on like pricing strategy on the listing side. What is the data telling you? What's going to put you in the most advantageous position to be able to have the most leverage, and ultimately make the most money, right? And then on the buy side, like what is the information to be able to make an educated offer, for the right price, have a winning offer, right? All that stuff, like they can put if they're really good at prompting, which the younger generation is, they're going to get good feedback from AI. But are they going to understand the concepts? And even if they do, it's going to spit out so much information. Like they really need it in a condensed way, and they need validation on that information. So I think the smartest people in the business are going to prosper. I think we need to be very educated, but you don't need to spend a lot of time planning. Like I had my second boss in the mortgage business. He always said like, hey, I met really good people in the business that they never sold anything because they spend all their time planning and they didn't spend any time taking action. So you got to have a good balance of that, 10% planning, educating, and 90% taking action, because, otherwise you're just not going to move people through the process and you're not going to make any sales. But yeah, I guess also to close, I mean, it's just going to save so much time. It's going to condense how many people you need to have to do a lot of transactions. And I'll pose this question back to you guys. What do you think that's going to do from a market compression standpoint? Because that was the conversation that we were having in the loan officer mastermind, is like, if we're going to be able to eliminate processors and just have underwriters process the loans because of AI, like there's going to be some market compression where we're going to make less money per deal. That's going to mean better rates for the consumer, but we're going to have to probably do twice as much business to make the same amount of money. Is that going to translate on the realtor side where, there's going to be more agents that are willing to work for less money because it's costing them less to run their business? I'm curious as to what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, that is a really interesting question. I would assume on the loan officer side, like, if you have to pay your processor less, or one processor can do like 5 times the amount of work, right? So now you have less processors. You're saving there, right? And maybe some of that savings gets passed on to the consumer in the form of a lower rate. I don't necessarily know if that will shrink what the LO makes, though, because you still need the LO, right? So there's like that part of it. And then thinking on the real estate side of it, I don't know if that will cause compression on what the agents actually make. You're either spending less time or less money as an agent because of AI, right? You're either doing less of the admin and back end work, or you're not paying someone who was doing that for you. So maybe you'll see some compression on that, right? Or maybe it becomes like more of a, like maybe actually interacting and talking with a human being that you can quickly build speed of, trust with. Maybe that creates like more value for the agent.
I think what probably moves the needle more than an agent's cost structure or their deal flow is how many other real estate agents are out there that can compete with you. And so the framework I'm thinking about it in is, does it reduce the barriers to entry, and does it reduce the barriers to become a really good agent? And I don't know the answer to that, because to be a really good agent, first you've got to, do a small number of transactions well. And you still have to be a good agent. Doesn't matter if you've got conversations with, 10 times or 20 times as many people. If you're not able to convert those, if you meet with them and they're like, this guy is weird, or I don't trust them, or they don't have experience, that's not going to increase the supply of quality real estate agents.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of feeds into like our next, or one of our other topics, right? Is this a great market or the best market to gain market share? Right. Because we went from 6 million deals a year to 4 million in a very fast time. And, there's less agents in the business. And, the people that used to do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 deals a year, like they have less time to focus on it, right? Or because they have to go get other jobs, or get out or do something else. And now there's less agents. And now the agents, that are doing 50 deals or 100 deals or 20 deals, like maybe they're doing 25 or 55 or 110, because those agents, those couple 100,000 agents that were doing like 1 or 2 or 3 deals a year, like those deals have to go to somewhere else. And, I would think with fewer agents, the commissions would be more protected. And we've certainly seen that. We've had a lot go on in our, it's not just the affordability and the rates and prices, right? We've also had these commission lawsuits and the new buyer agent rules, right? And so that's on there. We do know that in the last 2 years, average commissions have gone up. Is that because of the lawsuits? Is that because of less agents? Right? I don't know, but I think so I think you could argue it either way. I think the important thing though is like be the agent that's able to use AI that reduces your non-income producing activities, right? That gives you more time to spend on your high dollar activities, right? Which is like prospecting, building that trust, building that emotional connection, right? So if AI is making all the stuff you do in the background quicker and better, now you have more time to connect with more people, build more relationships. So I think if you use AI properly, it could be a huge benefit. On our team, Carrie's done an amazing job building out some AI systems. I'm not gonna. It does a lot, right? It can manage email. It can talk to prospects. It can follow up with agents on the team after their appointments to, make sure they put their notes in the CRM and followed up. Like it does a ton. I'll give like one example of specifically how it helped her with a builder. She had a meeting with a builder that was looking to pick certain neighborhoods in a city to focus on. And I think in this city there were like 100 different neighborhoods, right, or subdivisions or areas. And it would take a human being a lot of time to analyze like the average, price that a high-end home sells in each of those neighborhoods, the average acquisition cost, average days on market. Like there's a lot of data to go through. And Carrie's AI agent in like less than 15 minutes summarized it all, picked like the top 10 areas that the builder should focus on. And so she could have that long meeting with the builder, right? Get the data that the builder needed, and then get it back like really, really, really fast. So now that's going to allow her to have more of those meetings, spend more time on higher dollar things. So I think, that's just a couple examples there. But I think in 2027, agents will have the ability, as a one person show to do what 5 or maybe even 10 agents and team members and staff could do. And you need to figure out, how do I use these tools to spend more time doing the real work of real estate, like picking up the phone, making the calls, making the connection, building relationships. So that's where I think, agents need to go with it. Is it's not going to replace everything you do, but if you do it properly, it will replace the things that are less important than the connections and the relationships. And it could be a huge advantage, right, for agents that take advantage of it. So, and Karl, you brought up a great point. Like, don't spend like 80% of your time on it, right? Spend 80-90% of your time on building relationships, and 10% of like building and learning the AI systems that will help give you more time.
AI systems are, in my opinion, just an evolution of systems, right? Mm-hmm. And so, like in 2021, when the market was going crazy, agents could build systems, right? They could hire transaction coordinators, either here locally and team members here locally, or virtual assistants. And AI agents are just an evolution of that. I think we're in a period where we're still trying to get the quality and cost to be better than that last iteration. But so, in this market, is it easier to gain market share? I think it's all about whether people are building those systems or not. And the people that are building systems are definitely going to gain market share. But I don't think that's really all that different from before.
So it sounds like the most important job of agents is going to be the emotional connection and building trust with people, which is what it is now, right? You're just going to have more time to do it if you build the right systems. And in the past, you could build those systems with a lot of people. Now you can build them with less people. We've got time for one more of our topics here. We're not going to get to all 4 today. All right. So we teased it a little bit when we were just talking about AI. Like, is this actually the best market in years to gain market share? And I think, again, I mentioned we went from 6 million to 4 million, right? Let's just use a more exaggerated example. In your local market, if there were 1,000 home sales and now there's 500 and you sold 20 homes last year, I think there's going to be 2 types of agents and how they respond to that, right? One person's going to use it as an excuse or just be comfortable with the market shrunk by 50, so I guess I'm going from 20 deals to 10 deals, right? Hopefully, if you're listening to this podcast, that's not the type of agent you want to be. Hopefully, you'll be the other type, right? Which is, all right, the market shrunk 50%. I'm going to have to put in more work to do 20 deals, right? Instead of going down to 10. And if you're able to do 20 deals when the market's shrunk by 50%, because you put in more work, well, some people might look at that and say, like, yeah, I did the same amount of deals as last year. Well, you actually doubled your market share, right? You kept your income for you and your family the same, but put yourself in a position to just explode when the market goes back up, right? When we go, because real estate's cyclical. So instead of going from 20 to 10, right? You stay at those 20 deals. Well, when the market comes back up, guess what? You're not going to be doing 20 deals anymore, right? You're going to be at 40 or more. So my take on it is, and I don't know if you guys agree or disagree, I have different thoughts, but I think this is a great opportunity for agents that want to work harder, even if it means their income's the same now, right? But they're going to gain more market share.
I think there's so much more opportunity right now, Dan. I mean, because if we go back to 2020, 2021, you look at listings, anybody could sell a house, not much marketing was needed, which means the listing fallout rate was really low. And then, for buyers, I mean, they were like, in our market, there were like 50, 60 offers on a single house. you're going to have to make probably a dozen offers to ratify a contract for a buyer. So look at today. Listing fallout's way higher. There's way more listings that you can grab that, somebody failed to sell. And, for buyers, it's much easier to get them under contract on the first or second house because you have less competition. It's easier to negotiate seller paid closing costs for first timers. So more potential people can actually buy on the buyer side because of that, right? If they have limited money as first timers. I mean, obviously affordability is down as far as rates go, but like from a cash standpoint, that stuff can be more negotiable. And then from a listing standpoint, like if you are really good at negotiating with your own client and setting good expectations, you're going to have a much higher close rate than other agents are. Like I've talked to a bunch of real estate friends about how like everybody's, for the most part, like the conception is, being focused on negotiating with the person on the other side of the table. If you're the listing agent, negotiating with the buyer's agent, when in reality, the negotiation really starts with your own client and not being an order taker and just listing the home for whatever the client thinks the home is worth. If you bring the data and educate and negotiate with your client, hey, like, this is where we really should be based on what you told me, you want to sell your house fast, this is the sell my house fast price, then you're going to be able to close at a much higher rate than other agents. I just think there's so much more opportunity right now. And I really like what you said. I mean, are you going to let the market beat you down or are you going to come out stronger on the other side of this?
All right, James.
You guys are athletes.
Final thoughts here, James.
Yeah, you guys are athletes, and I'm sure a lot of people listening probably are too. I think the mantra of you get better in the off season holds true here. Whether you're playing lacrosse or football or soccer or whatever. Right now we're in the off season, and now is the time. Keep scrimmaging, keep lifting weights, keep working on your fundamentals, and building those in the real estate world and lending world. Building those systems so that you're creating capacity, and when the market comes back, you've got these systems and this capacity. That's what's going to double your business. And if you're building those things now, I think you're going to keep your business at the same level as it was before, maybe increase it a little bit, but you're going to have this enormous upside. And the people that don't have those systems and that aren't being consistent, they're not just getting like the overflow business. Maybe they're doing like, I don't think it's half their business. I think it's like 10 or 20%. And then the people that are building those systems and that are still treating it like a business are either maintaining or incrementally increasing in this market.
All right. I love that analogy, James. Unfortunately, we don't have time to get to our last topic about why you need to stop waiting for rates to save your business. So we'll kick that one over to the next show. I'm super excited about that topic, though, because I'll give a little teaser. I think there is an amazing opportunity for real estate agents to use creative financing, seller financing, assumable loans, subject tos to create more value for buyers and sellers at the same time so that sellers aren't just selling their home and walking away from low rates, right? They're going to get more value, if you learn some of these techniques we'll talk about in the next show, and the buyers will get more value too. So thank you for tuning in, guys. If you've listened this far, I definitely think it means we have earned a 5-star review. So please, if you're listening on Apple, tap the 5 stars, leave us a comment. Maybe we'll read it on the next show too and give you a shout out. So, and if you're on YouTube, of course, subscribe, leave some comments, or Spotify. We've got some listeners over there too. And I just have to mention, guys, if you like the show, like our vibe, and want to partner with us at eXp Realty, you can contact anybody on the episode, anybody on the show, even Nick, even though he wasn't here today. And we would love to have the conversation. We'd be honored with you to have the conversation, to share with you the value, the benefits that we give you when you partner with us at eXp Realty, right? It's not just about the low caps, the amazing training and technology, or the stock awards and revenue share, which can be life-changing, right? That's part of the reason I was able to take 2 months in the summer on an RV trip, is because of revenue share. But, we're also going to truly become your partners. We provide $40,000 to $50,000 of value of coaching and training and mentoring, and masterminds and events right, that you get when you pick one of us as your sponsors at eXp Realty. And, all you got to do is text us, leave a comment. There's links all over where we post these things. So we would love to have that conversation with you, and make sure you tune in next week. We'll see you guys later.
You've been listening to HyperFast Agent Growth Show with Karl and Dan Lesniak. Real strategies, real results, real estate done differently. If you love this episode, tap subscribe and share with another agent who's ready to grow.